All right, today we're going to be covering difficult engineering interview questions, how to overcome them, dominate, as well as resume examples. Let's get into it.
FormAWin for over 4 months now.
Part of the FormAWin community for a couple months now.
I just got my first internship.
I just landed my first internship.
Biggest thing I want you guys to do is take one thing away from today and make sure you implement it in your life.
100% directly resulted in me getting an internship offer.
All right, guys, so we're just going to go through some questions and how I would answer them, the best approach to do so, talk about some tips and tricks during this time of, going through engineering interviews, really dominating and making sure that we stand out, because if you answer a question bad or wrong, that's where everything can fall apart, and we don't want to fall apart. We want to make sure that we do everything properly and we really navigate the situation. So the first one we're going to go over is tell me about a time you failed. Now, I love this question. For me, failure is awesome. I think we should all fail more and fail quicker, specifically in engineering, for when you should answer these questions and how to answer the questions. Pick a real failure. Don't make one up. I was guilty of this early on when I was first starting my journey and trying to figure some of this stuff out. I would just sit there and, I would just come up with a bunch of stuff, and I would just not even really make it true. And, the biggest thing here that I like to say is I don't like preparing for interviews, because I'm not trying to prepare to be someone that I'm not. So this way, if you really look at all these situations that you're coming across, such as projects and different engineering things that you're a part of, and you start trying super hard and you actually are intentional with the life that you're living, then failures are going to come up naturally from you just trying to push the limit. Then when you push the limit, then you really have these failures. Then you can answer this question more authentically, as opposed to you just not having one, right? So make sure you pick a real failure, obviously, and then you're going to show ownership, what you did wrong. Talk about it, own it, right? Own your life. Don't sugarcoat things, don't lie, operate out of integrity. Be real, be humble, be 100% you. That's the biggest thing I want you guys to do, especially when you guys are answering some of these questions, because that's the biggest thing that's going to help you out. Now, as far as answering this question and closing out on it, I want you to end with a lesson and proof that you apply this later, right? So this is another big part. If you guys fail at something, let's say you miss a deadline, or you miss a project, or you miss a technical review, or you just fail at, designing something and something fell apart, right? Then you guys need to really analyze that and show why you would never make that mistake again, because that shows that you're coachable, you're teachable, and you're definitely easy to overcome failures. That's going to play a role significantly throughout your engineering career, because you're not going to just have no failures. Engineering is based off failures, right? That's what makes engineering fun. That's what makes engineering engineering. Otherwise, everybody would just go do one thing one time, and then there wouldn't be any creative or engineering need. It would just be, okay, go and do, right? So this is really big. So tell me about a time you failed. Answer that question just like that. The next one I want you to do is going to be explaining a technical concept to a non-technical person. This is another really good question. The biggest thing here is you need to be able to communicate properly, and that's something we focus on in FormAWin, obviously teaching you guys sales skills, teaching you guys communication skills, and practice will make perfect, aside from word tracks and strategies, and making sure that you guys really navigate this properly, right? So the biggest thing here I love to use is analogies. I use analogies in everything. Everything I talk about, everything I explain, I always use analogies. I love analogies, and you need to just keep it simple. Show that you understand the concept, show that you understand how it works with the analogy, and then that way you can just sell it. Don't talk about all the minute details, right? If you are asked this question, explain a technical concept to a non-technical person, then you need to be able to just explain it holistically, right? So that's a big one. That's a good way. That's a good strategy to answer that question. Make sure you kind of go through that. If you guys need to think of examples, let me know, right? Just put it down in the chat, and we can talk about it in our community. But the next one I want to talk about is why should we pick you over other engineering students? This is a big one. Right? Because it is competitive, it is real, and you are in an industry where there's a lot of people looking for positions. Now, here's the thing. Don't compare yourself to others. Just highlight your results, highlight your traits, highlight everything that you do, and just show you as a person. And then that way, once you're in that room, once you're in that virtual interview room, it's just you and the interview people. It's not anyone else. It doesn't even matter who they interviewed before, because your goal is going to be to make them better than you found them. So if you leave the interviewer better than you found them, in a better state, in a better energy, in a better mood, in a better situation, they love you, they fall in love with you, that's going to be hard to beat. Because other people are not thinking from that strategy, and they're just focused on technical, and they're not really holistically putting together their career in a package where you're able to show that you're hungry, coachable, you're able to learn quickly, you're able to follow up appropriately, you're able to hit all the markers, right? So you guys need to really just hit each marker in every interview. That way you can really just go into it. They can really tie to you, they can connect with you, they can tie to you emotionally as well. You need some emotional connection and something aside from, you obviously need to stand out and meet the standards and be able to produce a result. So that's a big thing too. But that's some areas I would focus on. There's not going to be one perfect answer for this, aside from, again, you going in there and knowing that you are different than everybody else. And if you're able to really show that, display that hunger again, display your coachability and connect with them, that's going to go a long, long way. And if you're able to do that with every single person you meet for the rest of your life, you're going to have endless opportunities, endless connections, and you're never going to have to worry about jobs. So that's awesome. That's number 3 there. Number 4, I want to talk about is walk me through a project you're proud of. This is great. something we talk about all the time is the STAR method. We have our interview cheat sheet inside the community as well. You guys look at that all the time, right? Yeah, exactly. So, but this is another little strategy you can use. So this is a 4-part formula. So problem, your specific role, any challenges you face, what you learned, and then the results from that, right? So this is a good framework to use to answer that kind of question. The biggest thing I like to use in this too is when I go to interviews and they ask me about something, I don't really prepare too much. The biggest thing I like to do is live in my resume where we have this as a living document. One of my mentors had once told me to have a resume as a living document where you document all your projects and everything, each week almost, if you want, every 2 weeks, however often you want to cycle it. And that's going to kind of go into part 2 when we talk about resumes in a minute. But again, have a living document. This is just your data, and then your final resume is your nice, cleaned up, summed up one, right? But if you're working in that living resume and you're able to document and update that, that's the biggest thing. What's written is retained. And if you guys are working on something, if you're at work in an internship or you're working on a project and you think it's not important, you don't want to add it to your resume, still document it, right? That's that living resume. Then that way, if you're writing it, you're part of it again. And something we covered at the beginning is being intentional with everything that you do. And if you're intentional, documenting, writing it, then it just becomes part of you. So that's where, again, I don't like preparing because I'm not trying to do something that I'm not. And then with this, when I answer this question, walk me through a project you're proud of, I'm able to just pull out from different projects I've worked on, whether that was last week, a month ago, a few months ago, whatever fits the conversation and however it's flowing, I'll pull from my bank just thinking for a minute, and then I'll be able to really analyze which one is just going to be the best for that situation. It's going to range per person as well. I hear a lot of companies and I hear a lot of career coaches saying, prepare a few specific stories, right? That way you can nail them perfectly. That's cool, and I like that, especially in practice. If you need to practice and you're not really comfortable with anything, I'll support it. But at the same time, if you just go in with like a few examples that you have memorized, and then you get into the group of people, it's not what you expected. They're asking some different questions you didn't expect, and then your situation is now kind of weird, and you don't know how to frame it because it's not the exact situation you want, or the exact project, or the exact formula for what you wanted to say. Then that's where it can become weird, right? And that might not be ideal. So I'd rather just go in, I'm me, I got this, and then here's my life. And then they're going to either like you or you're not, and then that's where we can reflect and grow, right? And then that's how we always overcome different things here, right? But that's a good strategy to use for this walk me through a project you're proud of. Go through that 4-part formula or use the STAR method as well. Both great things. Last one here is, what do you want to learn here? What do you want to learn here? This is a great one as well. Be honest, right? You need to go into these interviews with your career goals in mind, but the biggest thing I like to say is make sure your career goals fit within the company's vision. If they do, then that way they can be accomplished. So then that person that's interviewing you can say, okay, I can see how we can make this happen. And that way they know that you're bought in, you're coachable, and everything that you want out of life can really just go into it. So I like to go at it from that frame, because if we go at it from that frame instead of saying, okay, I want to go start my own company, then that can be a little bit different, because then it's like, okay, well, where do your true interest lie? Right? So it just depends on where and how much you want to tell them. But what I would say is, like, I want to build a family. I want to build a foundation. I've loved everything about this company from the different developments that I researched before I got to the interview, right? And I want to be part of the next wave of, where this company is going. And I think this company is going to go really far. I think you guys are working on some awesome things, and I want to have a role in it. I'd love to rise up to a senior level, vice president, president of the company, whatever it is, because that would just mean the world to me. Because, I came from a family that didn't have a lot of the success and didn't have a big role in companies and having a large impact on the world. And I love engineering. I love designing things. I love X, Y, and Z. And I know that this company can offer that to me, but also give me the benefit of impacting the world in a positive way. So that's why I want to be here. That's a perfect answer, but you can also kind of play with it. And then that shows what you're learning as well. You're learning how to organize and lead a team. You're learning how to develop an awesome engineering product, whatever it is. So those are all awesome different things. That way you can kind of frame that into your own life and then answer that question. So what do you want to learn here? That's how you answer it. Next thing we're going to talk about briefly here, I mean, we have several resumes, examples, and templates inside the community again, right? But engineering resume examples, what's good versus what bad looks like. We talk all the time about different types of resumes. You have your standard one-pager resume with black and white, just bullet points, standard. Everybody has the same template. And then we talk about this one a lot. This is the one that I used to get hired in my first internship. I had a picture on it. I had my favorite quote, right? So like when we talk about different resume examples, my biggest thing I like to say is just be you. Number one is be you, but number two, and how we really analyze and get positions here at FormAWin, is we network and get people to be our champion. And when people are our champion, then they look at us and then they say, okay, cool, well, here's what you need to do. Then they coach us, they mentor us, and then we really strategically develop that relationship. That's how we work, right? We develop that. We all have different relationships we're building, right? Like, yes, exactly. And then once we build those relationships and then that person says to change your resume to a certain way, then we need to make a resume just for that person, right? Because if they say to do it a certain way and then you don't do that, you're showing you're not coachable. And that's the biggest thing that we need to do, right? We need to show that we're coachable, and then that way we can really just push that network, push that relationship, and push that position to the next way. Because that's what we need. We need someone to fight for us, and that's how we get them to fight for us while also developing an awesome resume. But if we're just going in completely new and fresh, I would just be custom. I would do whatever you want, because that's how we be creative and that's how we become an awesome engineer. So that's just a little brief topic for you guys. I hope you guys got a lot of value at this. We'll stay after for a little bit of Q&A here, but okay, cool. All right, what we got?